We are back. Flint's News Talk, 1470 WFNT. Dan Foley, Sherman Mays here with you. Dr. Marc Edwards with us. LeAnn Walters setting the stage, and man, it's awesome to see how you push through with that, right? That's not taking these ants.
So I do the waltz now? Or is that?
I don't know what that is. We're using all the technology here. We might have. So you're going to be interviewed a little bit later too. They're doing a documentary, and they were here yesterday. We had Scott Smith with us yesterday, which was interesting. He's formerly with Water Defense, and that's a whole thing. So they were one of the first groups in after the emergency is declared. So the city, the state, MDQ, EP, they fold. No mas. Yes. What we're doing was wrong. They admit that what they were doing was wrong.
And they actually brought Miguel Del Toro out of the closet to lead the response.
Because he's
the only one that has any credibility.
He got set aside.
Yeah.
He tried to write a letter to Walling and the different people.
Yeah.
And say, hey, there's problems here.
And Susan Hedman. Yeah, Susan Hedman forbid him from talking, from anybody listening to him and from him even talking to people.
Right. Hedman resigned. Miguel was now leading the EPA response.
Correct. So he's in charge of this, and that's what's so funny, watching the folks who are, don't trust this blue ribbon panel. They brought the people in.
Absolutely.
They brought in you. They brought in Del Toro. They've got the folks who, right from the get-go, are saying
paid a price.
Yes,
paid a price
because he did.
Yeah.
He did. He was processing. He was like in the mailroom or something.
Yeah.
Right.
That would have been an upgrade compared to where he actually was. But yeah.
Anyway, he was getting food and water. So other groups start to come in. You've got these folks who have lost credibility, and they should have. Everybody should see. All right, we're going to listen to the people who were correct about the situation. And we're gonna take their advice, and we're gonna follow their recommendations. But you've got everybody in. So the people who said no, this isn't right. This is the template now, and you've got all these people come in. You go into detail with this in this paper as well, which is coming out probably early next week in Citizen Science. Any claim now that people make is taken at face value. And the thing, you come into this, we're in for a fight. They're going to fight us. We've got to have our science buttoned down. We've got to do these sampling by the book. It's got to be correct. We've got to be really accurate. We've got to have the data all good, because they're coming at us.
Yeah.
They fold. They're done. Now, who's gonna evaluate these competing claims? What's going to be the source of determining, if there's still a problem in Flint? You're by the summer of 2016, you point out, all the testing is showing that the lead in water in Flint is better. We've switched over to Great Lakes Water Authority now. That source is better. You shared that at the Rachel Maddow thing.
It's still crappy, but it's improving.
It's getting better.
Bottled water and filters. It's starting to get better.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. But you've got other people who are saying, nope, it's terrible. We're in crisis.
Worse every day.
Worse every day. And some of the stuff that you detail in this was you've got a couple of different residents. You're talking about some of the different groups involved. The reporting from the Young Turks and some of these other things that's going on. Saying it's not safe to shower and bathe. All this stuff is in there. And but who are you going to believe? And if you don't have standards, this is the thing people are talking about. And I remember arguing and going back and forth with others about this. Well, that's just the standard that we use, the cold water tap, that's what the EPA recognizes. And, these other sources could be a problem too. So, I mean, they want to change all the standards for testing, which are going to involve, checking everyone, finding out what the results are. When all you need to do for right now, how about if we use the standards that are in place, use those, and find out where we're at? And if people want to argue and fight about whether it's okay to take water from the water heater, from the hose, from the meter, that's fine, but that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on right here, right now.
Right, it's outside the bounds of the sampling.
Yeah. outside of the bounds of the sampling. The sampling has to be consistent, otherwise you're comparing apples to oranges. So in that situation, you got kind of a Wild West going on. What happens to you? What happens at this point?
Well, as you say, it was a circus. It was anarchy. It was total chaos. And so what you end up with is competing, expertise and what claims, count. And you have all of this data floating around that just is totally unstandardized. And, so Scott, I think when he came on yesterday, Scott Smith,
yep.
I now know that he was given a false narrative, a false information, and when that happens, you reach false conclusions. And
yeah.
One can see sort of how that could occur, but Water Defense was providing some information that was erroneous. Then other people got on the bandwagon, taking samples in ways that made lead appear falsely high.
Yeah.
And using that in the media to claim it's getting worse or to support their lawsuits. And then,
enormously high.
Oh my gosh! Homes that had no lead pipe
over a series of
suddenly in the thousands of ppm.
Thousands, yeah.
And then also around that time, we had the case where there was an astronomical, amounts of lead again in a home with copper pipe that had relatively low lead before, and then Scott went in and found lead sinkers in the line, which was horrifying. There's no innocent explanation for finding lead sinkers in plumbing. And so when he reported that to the proper authorities, people turned on him and got very, very angry. And so, the issue here is that when the state and EPA lied, that was horrible.
Yeah.
And the citizen science was used to expose that.
Right.
And we just did not have opinions. We had data.
Yep.
And that data was scientific. It was backed up. And in fact, we as a team actually went out and independently took some samples that the residents never touched so that we could show that we got high lead. And, you couldn't claim every single resident in town was putting lead in their water.
Yeah.
But, after that point, it just became this kind of free-for-all where people were throwing all these numbers. It almost became a competition to see who could get the highest lead under the most outrageous set of circumstances, meaning you have no lead in your plumbing other than, lead and brass. And then actually holding a press conference, which one resident did, held a press conference. And in the process of that press conference, admitted that she violated the state and the Virginia Tech and EPA protocol in a way that made lead appear falsely high. But that didn't stop her from going to the media. So that was the kind of chaos that was going on.
If you say, well, here's what the lead level is, but you don't talk about the protocols and the testing site and how it was done, how it was handled, as though, well, the number is the number. The number is not the number. It depends
on, in that exact house, during the height of the crisis, the lead levels were below 15.
Yeah.
When we were doing the proper protocols.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have it in writing that house couldn't even be sampled according to the lead and copper rule because it didn't have enough lead in it.
Yeah.
Right. And if I could, real quick, and I know, Dr. Edwards, you weren't into the political goings on. You were just doing your research, which is perfect. But there were lots of people, as you know, doing things, like you said, the press conferences and whatnot, just to continue the hype, fear-mongering and whatnot.
And I wouldn't say it's lots. It was a very vocal few minority, and they did get a disproportionate amount of attention because it was such crazy numbers, you know, and they were in the range of
headline-grabbing numbers,
LeAnn's house, and they didn't have lead in the plumbing except for lead and brass.
Yeah,
right.
So, so this is all going on. And you've got a parallel track then. It's not just from these sources. And I know, and you mentioned Scott Smith from Water Defense formerly. They report the sinkers that they find in the thing. People aren't happy about that, for that having been reported.
Why wouldn't you be happy about that? Wouldn't you, if you had, someone found lead sinkers in your plumbing, wouldn't you be happy to know that this hazard was discovered and go to the police and demand an investigation?
Why wouldn't you want to know?
Shot at you and
I argue with people who are saying, well, they're just trying to discredit this woman. Like, no, if someone did that, you're right. That's an assault. This is a dangerous. It's a dangerous metal. Yeah, exactly. You would report it to the police and say, how did this get here?
And when you say thank you for finding these
For finding
lead
this
sinkers
and
in my plumbing, I mean, this is.
Oh no, there's little fishermen inside the lines, and you know, it just broke off. Happens all the time.
So we got to take a
They're
break.
looking for trout.
Do a little fishing. So we're gonna take a break. We'll come back. The other thing is, so you've got a lot of people. There's competing methodologies on sampling. It's leading to results which aren't comparable, right? You can't compare these, right? So, but then a whole new angle starts from the scientists themselves, and you get a new notion of that engineering shouldn't be too rigorous. What's that movement called? I forget.
Well, there's the kind of postmodern scientists who think that, you know, that everyone should have an equal vote no matter what it is, and that everyone's opinion should kind of count equally. And so that entered into the picture. Because
as though expertise is not something that, I mean, this is precisely what broke this open, was the expertise and the diligence, not just of your team, but the people who were working with you.
You know, LeAnn had the science all figured out before I even got involved.
Yeah. Well, and you had to, because it's impacting you. You got to get to the bottom of this.
Nobody else was listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's my children. It's my family.
Right.
You know, when you're going around in the neighborhoods trying to talk to people, tell them what you found.
Yeah.
And they're cursing you out. and you know, you know you're onto something.
Yeah. That's for sure. All right, well, we'll take a break. We'll come back, and I want to talk about this next phase because, and there's a ton of money that starts coming into Flint as well, right? There's a lot of money to fix the problem. They've put the people in charge who are, you know, helped expose it, but then, you know, all sorts of other influences start to be felt, and we'll talk about that. You go into this, and again, it's comprehensive. You go through all of this in your paper. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's Flint's News Talk, 1470 WFNT. Dan Foley, Sherman Mays. We're here with Dr. Marc Edwards, LeAnn Walters. More when we come back.